Alright, so the materials used with the cube. In the inside, we have wood, along with the .NET Gadgeteer, along with a lot of different plugins for the .NET Gadgeteer. And on the outside, we have some colored construction paper, as you can see inside the glass, and on the outside of it is a case, a plexiglass casing. And that's the cube.
So our learning goals for this cube was to take what you can learn in a regular classroom and make it universal, accessible, and mobile. And the important features of that is, first off, is the universal aspect of it, is where you can take out an SD card and put in a different one that loads a different text file that loads different questions for you. So it's universal. Accessible, it's incredibly easy to use, it's very light. That also kind of goes into mobile, where it's just this right here, it powers on like this, and you can take it anywhere.
Okay, there were two main strategies in coming up with our conceptual design. First, we wanted to look at what kids normally play with on an everyday basis, and we thought of shapes. And so what better shape to come up with than a cube? And the second was to create a new sort of input instead of your normal mouse and keyboard input, and an input that was more intuitive.
So in developing this hardware prototype, we came into a couple roadblocks. One of them was the fact that the wood in it was too large. So we actually had to get rid of all of the old cube, and we got new wood for it that was much smaller. So now the plexiglass fully housed it. And another challenge and roadblock that we have run into recently is the very top. Since we have some touch going on, we can't have something over the top yet. So we're working on that from a software standpoint to make it all gesture-based, and then we will have the cube completely enclosed in plexiglass. And then going into strengths and weaknesses, the strengths of it is that it is relatively small and light. It's really not that bad, and I believe that most children's hands will be able to at least hold on to it and be able to use it. So that's a big strength.
To address some of the feedback that we got from the UMBC folks, first they wanted something like a progress bar in the cube that would let you know your progress throughout answering questions, see how far you've gone. Second was some type of silly do not touch button that does something random. Third, they were wondering about the materials that we will use, whether we use some type of wood or plastic or glass, etc. Fourth, they wanted to feel like they wanted to have some type of ownership of the cube, and where you could change color, maybe have an avatar or something like that. And third, they wanted a touchscreen. So as you can see from the previous demos, that we've incorporated a touchscreen, and we have the ability to change the color of the cube. As far as the other three recommendations, they may come along later in a further prototype. Right now we're still developing, and that's all we got for now.
So one thing that we picked up from the feedback that we got was the idea of using user login profiles with avatars. It's something we're really thinking about incorporating. So right now, that's one of the design alternatives we're thinking about taking with this. So if we incorporate it, when you unlock the screen, you will probably be brought to somewhere where you can actually access your personal profile that has your own avatar. So that will also be located on the SD card. So it's what we're pretty much thinking about taking a turn to in the later iteration of this prototype.
Great.
So one of the major roadblocks that we dealt with was figuring out how exactly we wanted to parse through the information that we stored on the SD card. The SD card gives us the functionality to be able to insert, different subjects or different lessons, so that we won't have to just be static. So one of the biggest roadblocks was, okay, actually, how do we do this? How do we want to store it? It took a little while to figure out how to use the SDK to actually store stuff on the SD card and pull it off. But after we got done with that, everything went pretty much smooth. So that's pretty much the biggest roadblock we had. One of the strengths of this from a software side. It's very easy to use. We have images corresponding to which subject you're using, and we also have images corresponding to certain questions. So that's one of the biggest strengths. One of the weaknesses is that you will have to, after you install so much on an SD card, you will have to insert a different SD card for new lessons that you want to add for different areas. So that's the biggest weakness. But other than that, the Cube is very intuitive and really fun to use.